Good morning and welcome. It is March 7th, 2023. We're going to call our Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. We will start with an invocation by Pastor Blaine Albright from the Christ Fellowship Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Pete Luther, a retired U.S. Army colonel. So if you would all please stand. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Let's pray together. Father, thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity that we have to come to you in prayer. Thank you that you are not far off and distant and unconcerned with our lives, but you tell us in your word quite the opposite, that you care for us, that you know us, you love us, and that you want us to come to you, just like the Bible says, to pray about everything, to pray without ceasing, to pray with faith and belief that you are ready and willing to move on our behalf. Your word tells us that if we need wisdom, that we can come to you and ask for it, and you will give it to us. And so I pray that you'll do that today. Help us know where to act and where we need restraint. Help us know where we need to speak and maybe where we need to hold our tongue. The Bible says that where there's unity, there's blessing. And so I pray that our community, we'd seek you together, that we'd be united in the pursuits that bring honor to you, that we'd always be looking for the opportunity to recognize the dignity and the value of every person, as we're all image bearers of you, our Creator. Thank you for these leaders and the many others who serve our county so faithfully. I pray that you'd bless their families and their relationships, their businesses, and that you'd open our eyes to you today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Morning.
Before, do you want me to
Yeah,
stand up
why don't
first?
we say the pledge and then you can share with us a little of your background.
Face the flag, please, and follow me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Colonel, good morning and thank you. I figured this way everyone could sit down and they can hear about your illustrious career, if you don't mind sharing some of it with us, sir.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you for this opportunity to be with you today. But as was said, I was commissioned initially in 1967 from Michigan State University. I was an ROTC grad, but I went into the regular Army. I was a DMG, which is a Distinguished Military Graduate, and went in the Army as a regular. Served in Armor First, because there was a combat arm detail during the Vietnam War time frame. And then after that, I reverted to Ordnance Corps and became basically maintenance battalion commander and that kind of thing over my career. I spent 10 of my 26 years in the Army overseas. Of course, I was in Vietnam as a maintenance company commander. I also served in Italy for 4 years, running a maintenance shop there and at a depot. Then I also served in Korea as the executive officer for the 702nd Maintenance Battalion, which was the largest in the 2nd Infantry Division at the time. And then I also served 4 years in London, England, 2 years at the embassy on diplomatic status, and then 2 years as the commander of the Army Standardization Group. So then I completed my career in 1993 and became a defense contractor for another 21 years, doing missile defense and a lot of that. So anyway, I have over 40 years of serving our country in one way or another. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to be with you today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We're honored to have you. Thank you very much. Okay. We have one additional item, departmental number 5, an affordable housing update, and there are no consent polls. So I would,
Mr. Chair, move approval of the agenda with the consent.
thank you very much. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith to accept the agenda as presented, seconded by Commissioner Hetherington. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. We have two proclamations this morning. The first one is Irish American Heritage Month, and it will be presented by Ms. Laura Beaupre. Ms. Beaupre, good morning. You are recognized.
Good morning, Commissioners. The Irish first came to Spanish La Florida in the 1500s, first as missionaries and mercenary soldiers, and then as planters, traders, businessmen, doctors, and administrators. And three of the Spanish governors of La Florida were actually Irish military officers. Irish Americans, since America's inception, have provided leadership and service to Florida and our nation. In recognition of March as Irish American Heritage Month, all are encouraged to celebrate their cultural heritage and many valuable contributions. And here to accept, we have Ray Lynch, who is the State President and National Director of the Ancient Order of Hibernians.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You want to say a few
Just
words?
speak into this.
Yes, please.
Ray Lynch, National Director and Florida State President of the Ancient Order of Hibernians. On behalf of the Irish Americans in this county and within the state of Florida, I humbly thank you, along with the governor and 62 other municipalities within the state, for naming March Irish American Heritage Month. Thank you.
Thank you.
You were just discussing how much Irish you have.
I said I'm not Irish, but I married one.
There you go.
I am.
I am
You are.
10%.
There it is. Our next proclamation is Flood Awareness Week in Martin County, Florida.
Martin County has experienced severe weather in the past in the form of extreme rainfall or tropical events, resulting in flooding in both coastal and riverine areas. This flooding has caused damage and flood losses to homes and buildings in all areas, whether they are high-risk special flood hazard areas or low to moderate risk flood zones. During Flood Awareness Week, March 6th through the 10th, the board encourages residents to increase their knowledge of how to protect themselves and their property from flooding. And here to accept, we have Christine Madsen, who is our engineering permit manager with Public Works.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Flooding is one of the most common and costly natural disasters that occurs throughout the United States. Just 1 inch of flood water can cause up to $25,000 in damages. During Flood Awareness Week, March 6th through the 10th, Martin County Public Works Department is joining a statewide effort to help educate residents about the importance of flood awareness and the benefits of having flood insurance. We are encouraging residents to become flood ready by being prepared and knowing the risks associated with flooding in our community. We ask residents to have an emergency plan and disaster supply kit ready in the event of an evacuation, and to ensure residents acquire flood insurance to protect their property. During Flood Awareness Week, residents can learn about the different flood-related topics featured on the county's social media pages or by visiting the county's website. So if you have an opportunity, please stop by and check out our flood awareness displays. We have one here in the lobby, one at the Blake Library, and one at the building department. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody speak this way a little bit. Okay, Commissioner can't be in the TV. All right, let's do a couple.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, we'll take some public comment, and then to my colleagues, we're going to take the agenda a little bit out of order for some folks that are here in the room this morning. We're going to take departmental number 4, Special Olympics update, following our comment session. So with that, if anyone would like to address us and has not yet filled out a form, you can ask our bailiff for one of these request to speak forms. You'll have 3 minutes to speak to us on a general topic item or a later agenda item if you're not going to be able to speak about it later. If you do speak this morning about an agenda item and you want to speak later, you can only speak one time per agenda item. Our first request to speak form this morning is from Ms. Linda Smythe. Good morning.
Hello, Linda Smith. I live in Jupiter, Florida, but I'm representing myself and the Sierra Club Loxahatchee Group. We have over 5,000 members and supporters in Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, and Okeechobee counties. I am speaking today to encourage you not to develop Martin County like Broward, Palm Beach, and even St. Lucie counties. Your welcome sign and many of your promotional items online say things like naturally quaint and small town feel. The Rural Lifestyles CPA-2021-08 destroys your, I'm speaking for the members that live in Martin County, urban boundary. Development must be limited to the urban tier. You do not want suburban sprawl like the rest of South Florida. Believe me, I experience it down south. CPA 2108 will affect traffic congestion, taxes, preservation land programs, schools, school budgets, our waterways, and our quality of life. Affordable housing should not be located outside of the urban tier where there are not essential services and mass transit. Do not get fooled by opening up your western areas. It will not help your need for affordable housing, which I know you're speaking to later on. Maybe you just did. You will need more low-wage workers, and they will not be able to afford the home in the areas close to where they work. Taxes is another red herring for development. They always say that tax revenues will increase. That is true, but they do not cover the long-term expenses. They need more services than agriculture. Just think about all of the sewer conversion and septic tanks that you are going to be doing in the next couple of years. Finally, within this theme, I do want to speak to item CNST-9, the approval of purchase by Martin County of 2 vacant half-acre lots in Palmar. I hope you can do this at every meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next request to speak form is Mr. Tom Pine. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tom Pine. I presently live in Jensen Beach. Once again, hidden in the consent agenda, $13,194,675.23, spent between January 24th and February 6th of 2023 without identifying the payee or the purpose of the payments. This past week, I looked up consent agenda on Google. What goes into a consent agenda? And the answer is items that are typically routine, non-controversial, or matters that board has reached a consensus on after a previous discussion. A hidden agenda is a private goal that members may be pursuing which they feel would be not accepted if they were made public. And that's exactly what we have here in Martin County. It appears that this commission does exactly what you're not supposed to do when using a consent agenda. You are not supposed to be using a consent agenda to hide from the taxpayers where millions and millions of our tax dollars are being spent without identifying the payee or the purpose of the payments. You are not supposed to hide sweetheart deals for your friends at the Martin County Chamber of Commerce either. The consent agenda, as used in Martin County, shows we do not abide by democratic principles, rather operate our local government as we're some kind of third world banana republic. This must end. It's unacceptable. Since our county government seems to be consistently looking for new business ventures using our tax dollars, I have a suggestion that would fall under public service. Garbage collection, like all other businesses that county operates, such as 2 restaurants and a mooring field, just to name a couple, garbage collection comes under public service and is done by many local governments across the country. The city of Stewart has done their own garbage collection for decades now, and their rate single-family home is $265 a year for once-a-week garbage pickup plus yard waste and recyclables, whereas Martin County rate is $405 a year for garbage twice a week. Garbage is one of the items costs are going to keep rising, and doing our own would be a big plus financially for years to come. I do understand this would never happen with this commission. After all, waste management belongs to Martin County Chamber of Commerce. But someday, maybe, the county commission works taxpayers instead of making common Chamber of Commerce their main concern. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Our next request to speak form is Mr. David Gonzalez. Good morning. Good.
It's funny because what I have to say kind of relates to some of this stuff, but I think it's time we have a serious discussion about the zoning laws of Martin County. Some of us know that there are a tremendous amount of commercial businesses running on residential properties in the farms, hundreds of employees, dozens of businesses. You've got dog food distribution centers, landscape companies, yacht brokers. The word's out on the street that Palm City Farms is ripe for the picking by these commercial operating entities. Okay, and I know, because Ed, you and I have had conversation about this. I think it's time we put together some kind of a committee, and I'm willing to be involved and put my time into it, okay? Because like some of these people who want to save Martin County, you have to get at the core reasons why things are happening, okay? On my street alone, there's a dozen operators. Four Seasons Landscape, which we know is already in violation and has a judgment against them by the county. They gave him a $100 fine. That guy's laughing at that. He's probably making $10,000 an hour out there. He's brought hundreds of yards of fill onto that property, and we're all aware of it. So he's going to ruin it for everybody else, because a lot of these guys are my friends. But you've got aggregate yards, pressure cleaning companies, landscape maintenance companies, commercially dumping and burning, okay? So I know the interior of this county loves to have all those services, but the fact of the matter is they're all operating illegally outside the zoning laws. This commission and the tax appraiser and your zoning guy and your code enforcement need to come together to formulate a plan, okay? You have to, because this is at the heart of growth, okay? Like her, I've seen it. I grew up here. I'm fifth generation Floridian. What's happening is disgraceful. All the way to Ocala, Florida is being decimated. You guys are good people, I know. I know a lot of you personally. These are hard, difficult challenges. It's time to call a meeting. It's time to bring all these business owners who aren't going to be very happy, who say there's no place to go. That's what the Economic Development Council is about. That's what your guys' job is about. That's what the tax appraiser is about. Let's put everybody's head together and get all these companies. I got them surrounding me. You got 40-foot semis coming in next to my house dumping dog food. Four Seasons, 25 trucks, excavators. This is all illegal according to the code. So, Ed, I'm asking you, I'll help you. I know it's not going to be easy, but we got to come to some sort of a solution because it's chasing a lot of us out. I work really hard to maintain my ag business. I've been boarding horses for 20-something years. And what I have to do and then get assessed by the county while these guys run commercially, okay. Anyways, we have to have some kind of serious meeting to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next request to speak form is Miss Linda Fithian. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Linda Fithian. I live in Palm City. And I wrote all of you a letter. It's probably in your mailbox if you haven't seen it yet. So I'd like to read that today, and thank you for your time. Hello, Commissioners. I write today regarding the Live Local presentation of the Florida Senate Bill 102, scheduled for the County Commissioners meeting on March 7th today. That's the agenda, the special agenda that was added to it. Senate Bill 102, in its current verbiage and form, is a takeover of local government. The statements preempting local government on zoning, local government may not restrict the density of development, local government may not restrict the height of a development, local government must consider reducing parking requirements, are all in the policies included in this bill. There are many of these dictates in this bill. Conversations and decisions in our local community, such as people are just having with you, will no longer be ours to make. Do we really want people who do not live here to dictate what gets built here? Most of you have lived in this county for a long time. Why would you want this bill in its current form to pass? This bill will change Martin County forever and not for the better. It takes away much of your local control. You have all heard from many of your constituents about the crowded roads and flooding from the new construction that has already taken place. This bill will enable overbuilding. One wonders why the current building projects have been recommended by the county planners and approved by county commissioners. And this state bill only piles on. I ask, why do the state senators wish to make Florida a nanny state? This bill is nothing more than wealth redistribution. This takes away home rule, and I ponder why we would even need commissioners. This bill seems to be trying to push all communities into a one-size-fits-all model. All state and federal funding programs have strings attached. Leaders in our state and local communities need to just say no. There are many tax exemptions listed in this bill, including tax exemptions that are mandatory for developments that have more than 70 affordable dwelling units. No matter how much money this bill is spending on affordable housing and tax exemptions, the state does not make that money. The federal government does not make that money. These monies, which originate from federal and state funds, come from taxes paid by citizens of this state and country. This bill takes away all local control of how these monies are spent and takes away control of the local county commission boards, the local government, and the people. If state legislators and local governments wish to help the citizens of this state and country to create thriving communities with housing for all economic levels, allow local government to help their local citizens and taxpayers with tax exemption money. May I finish reading this letter?
We can't because we let everyone have 3 minutes. We're going to have an agenda item, as you know. I hope you'll be able to stay.
Probably not be able to. I'm hoping to make it back for that, but thank you.
Yeah, we're going to have it this morning, ma'am. No, but you can have your time, though. Our next request to speak form is Diane Castellucci.
I'm Diane Castellucci from Palm City, and basically what I was about to read was a letter that one of my members wrote to State Senator Gail Harrell, and it pretty much says everything that Linda just said, but since I have the 3 minutes, I will read it. Senate Bill 102, also known as Live Local Act, contains a clause that, if passed, seems to suggest it would remove the authority to limit how high and how large future buildings can be built. Our concern is that this bill will affect the density and quality of life in our county, specifically in cities such as Stewart and Palm City. We have seen this happen in other counties such as Broward and Miami-Dade. With Obama's affordable housing initiatives, high-rise, low-cost suburban neighborhoods that was purposely designed to change red areas to blue areas, whereby changing the political demographics. We do not want that to happen in Martin County. We feel that this bill will ultimately remove the authority of local governments to decide what is best for the local residents. We need our elected officials to help us preserve the charm and attractiveness of our communities, but also to preserve the conservative majority that we have worked so hard to secure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Diane was our last request to speak form. If anybody else would like to speak at this time, now would be the time to let me know. Seeing none, We'll go and we'll start with commissioner comments with you, Commissioner Smith.
Sure, thank you very much. So I guess I assume all of us know that our administrator has chosen Jeff Doherty to become our next building department director. Am I assuming accurately? Okay. And I just found out the other day, and I was kind of reaching out to Jeff to talk to him about some things that were occurring, and found out, and I forgot about this, that we have to vote to ratify Jeff to be our building department director, and that won't happen until, wasn't scheduled to happen until the 21st of March, I believe. And so Jeff's not in that role as we speak, and I assumed he was, actually. And I was kind of getting mixed signals, like, why can't we make that decision? So I asked Don yesterday if there was any reason why we couldn't bring that up today. And if it's merely a vote of the commission, is there a way that we could do it today and get him going so that he's not just out there, he's actually sitting in the seat? So that's my question for the day, and I'll maybe turn it over to Don for further clarity if needed be.
Mr. Donaldson, catch that hot potato.
Thank you, sir. It is an item that I had scheduled to bring before the board the next meeting. Jeff's official start date could be moved up if this was happened earlier, but, Jeff has put in his resignation to St. Lucie County. So if you were to take action today, it would relieve me the responsibility of completing the agenda item, and we could move forward today if you like. Otherwise, it's scheduled for the 21st to come before you as a consent item with the recommendation that the board confirm Jeff Doherty as our building department director.
Commissioner Smith, back to you.
I would make that motion to confirm Jeff Doherty as our building department director.
I'll second that.
Fantastic. Any comments from my colleagues? Thank you for bringing that up. I did have an opportunity to speak to Mr. Doherty, and he did say something about that it would take a couple of weeks for him to come on board. I mean, obviously, the Martin County staff and family suffered a tragic loss with Larry Massing back in the late 2022, and I know that Scott has done a very, very good job filling in and handling the department. I had said to many people that call me, and I'm sure you all as well, about building department issues, that the business of the building department did not stop, sadly, because Mr. Massing passed away. So to get someone in there to sort of firm up the direction forward, I think sooner the better. And Mr. Doherty, who had been with us at the county level, for people that are not familiar with him, he was here, and then he recently went to St. Lucie County. I'm thrilled to have him back. He's a smart guy. He's a thoughtful, thinking person. He is a team builder. He is reasonable, and I think if we could ever try to fill Mr. Massing's shoes, it would be with Mr. Doherty. So I'm very happy to support that. With that, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioners. And I think for our community that relies on our building department, I think having that position stable now and moving forward, I think will be a huge plus to our community. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's all I have this morning.
Commissioner Heatherington.
Oh, are we taking the affordable housings at the end?
No,
End
we're
of
going to
the
do,
agenda?
we're going to do Department number 4 first, the Special Olympics update, and then we'll do Departmental number 5, Affordable Housing update, because there are members of the public that are here that would like to hear it. So instead of pushing it to the end of the day when they're gone, we'll hear it second after the Special Olympics.
So I'll save my comments for then, but I think, Linda, your letter that you mentioned, I think you share, we all share, many of us share those sentiments that we want local control in Martin County. So I'm sure we'll have lots of comments during that agenda item. And that's all I have during commissioner comments.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Agree with that statement, and I've got nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hurd.
Yes, I've received lots of correspondence from residents about Senate Bill 102, Senate Bill 1240, and its House Companion Bill, which is 1197, all in opposition to those bad bills that are pending. So what's our response?
Well, we're going to hear it in two agenda
Well,
items.
we're going to take up Senate Bill 102 and Senate Bill 1240
Sure. I plan
in
on,
the affordable housing. I don't see it on the agenda.
well, I mean, if you'd like to make comments now, that's of course your prerogative. I figured, as Commissioner Heatherington just said, that once we kick it off with Senate Bill 102, that we can have a conversation. I received those same emails a couple of times. I tried to reply to folks that thought they were our initiatives, which they're not. And then, the conversation to me is a little more broad in terms of home rule and what a legislative session has. Quite often, every year, as a matter of fact, we talk about, not just what's happening or not happening, but this year in particular, they're right out of the starting gate with a lot of things that would be detrimental for, especially, and the comment was made, one size fits all. One size fits all at a state level doesn't work in 67 counties, and it especially doesn't work in Martin County. So, but I just figured we would have that conversation sort of wrapped around that departmental number 5.
Okay.
But if you-
I just didn't understand how it was going to fit in with the discussion about an affordable housing update. It doesn't sound like an affordable housing update to me. So we're going to fold the discussion of the legislative session into the affordable housing update?
Well, the agenda item that I read said that we are having a gentleman who's pretty well versed on this from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council come to discuss some of those legislative ideas that are affordable housing at the state level.
You're talking about the other bill.
Yeah.
Correct. So I just figured we'd start with that, and then we can tailor off from the conversation.
As long as we're going to have a conversation.
We're having a
because the
conversation.
Residents want us to oppose these bills. I want us to oppose these bills. So we need to have a public discussion.
I don't believe you're going to, in this particular case, find an argument from
Good.
your colleagues. That's my personal opinion. I don't know. I obviously have not spoken to my colleagues.
Also, speaking of that, what representation do we have in Tallahassee for the upcoming legislative session?
Commissioners, we have our legislative position has been filled with Ms. Sarah Powers. She started yesterday. We have our team of lobbyists that we have on board with Ballard and a few others that are also advocating on our behalf. And in general, we have already adopted your legislative priorities, which one of them has always been a opposition to those bills that diminish home rule. And so we've already taken those actions. And of course, during the session, we do know that several of you will be going up and advocating as well.
Thanks.
Mr. Donaldson, probably before we get into the second agenda item, maybe you'd want to have Ms. Powers come down and Mr. Mail, if he's assisting.
Yes, I was thinking that.
It's already day 2. I don't see why she
Might as well start, with, right?
Right, well, she's a local.
Gotta have initiation sometime.
Yes, I appreciate your initiation. Yes, thank you.
Bring it down. So with that in mind, anything else, Commissioner Hurd? Mr. Donaldson, anything? Ms. Woods? I actually have nothing. We can move directly into our agenda. Our first agenda item will be departmental number 4, a Special Olympics update. It'll be presented by Mr. Kevin Abate and Mr. Kevin Kerwin. Mr. Abate,
morning.
good morning. You're recognized.
Good morning, Kevin Abate, Parks and Recreation Director, for the record. Today, we're bringing back an item that request of the board and the county administrator about the Special Olympics Florida. In the executive summary, you'll see that the Special Olympics Florida is requesting that the board fund a full-time position within the Parks and Recreation Department for the fiscal year 2024 budget, which is currently underway for planning now. A little history: on August 16th of 2022, Special Olympics provided a presentation to the board and requested that the board fund a position within the Parks and Recreation Department, and at that time, no action was taken. We actually met with the Special Olympics to talk about the position and some of its needs. The proposed position would coordinate all the Special Olympic programming along with a Martin County-based team of athletes. In connection with the position, the Special Olympics is also requesting access to various Martin County parks and recreation facilities for team training, equipment, and storage at no charge. Currently, Special Olympics uses the water park for their swim practices. We do charge a not-for-profit rate for the Special Olympics. They use the other amenities during the summer for their programming needs as well. We did a little analysis to determine what type of position would be appropriate if it were housed in the Parks Department. And the Therapeutic Recreation Coordinator, which is a specialized position for special needs athletes, has the proper training. That position, all in, would be $92,000. You'll see the breakdown with this, roughly a starting salary of $55,000, and the other salary, cell phone stipend, office space, et cetera. Legal has, and risk management, TRICO would also have to evaluate some of the feasibility requirements relative to transportation if that were something that we needed to look at down the road for program participants. And that is, and the recommended action for this item is that the board provide direction to the staff on request of this position within the Parks Department.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
If it's okay, I'd rather the public go first, and then I'll
Okay, you can
come
put
back.
your light back on. I'm
Thanks.
sorry. Okay, we have two, thank you, Mr. Abate. We have two request to speak forms. And if anyone else would like to address us, there's a form. You can come speak ahead of time and fill the form out afterwards. Our first request is from Miss Jackie Lewis. Miss Lewis, good morning. It's good to see you again.
Good morning. A long time back into the community. Well, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jackie Lewis, and I'm here with my daughter, Corey. Some of you may remember me. I was the general manager of the Courtyard by Marriott here in Stewart, opened that back in 2008, and worked along many of you side by side building the tourism in this county. Today, I stand with you to provide you a personal testimony of the priceless value that Special Olympics has provided to Corey and our family. I am not sure if you're aware, but Corey attended Martin County Schools, lettered as a South Fork cheerleader, and works in the Palm City Publix here for the past 3 years. She has also represented Martin County, the great state of Florida, and the United States in the Special Olympics World Games as an equestrian in Abu Dhabi in 2019, winning a silver, a bronze, and a 4th place.
Great job, Corey.
Most recently, she has represented again Martin County and the state of Florida at the USA Games in Orlando last year in 2022 as the fastest 3-mile paddleboarder, winning gold against 5 men in the USA Games there. So she's a tough athlete. But she learned these sports here in Martin County. Obviously, we have a huge equestrian community in Palm City and the beautiful waterways paddleboarding. Although sports are a great accomplishment, they are small compared to the life skills that Corey has achieved being in Special Olympics. Confidence, as you can tell, self-advocacy, and most important, independence and self-worth in a world that will not be easy for her. These are valuable members of our community that have so much to offer, and not nearly enough are participating so that they too may find their place in this world. It is often I hear from parents of special needs that no matter how mild or severe that disability may be, I didn't know my child qualified for Special Olympics. As a parent, I want Corey to find her independence so that she is not so dependent on the world around her. And that truly began with participating in Special Olympics. In any way that our community, leaders, and neighbors can support this great organization, it will all help us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next request to speak form is Adam Grams. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners, and I thank you for the time. I don't know how I follow that up. I think our personal stories are typically our most impactful. I'm here on behalf of the Special Olympics Florida. Just kind of want to remind everyone of Aaron's presentation in the fall. And Corey's story isn't unique. Corey is unique, but Corey's story within our programming isn't unique. I'd also like to recognize Andy and Allie that are here. Andy and Allie, can you stand up and showcase your medals? Corey, Corey, you can join them. And just as a reminder, with Special Olympics, a lot of people recognize us for the sports we do in communities, but a lot of what we do is outside of sports. It is health communities, it's the social network. We do a lot of outreach to try to help our athletes become employed within the community and try to do everything we can to help them feel included. A big part of our programming as well is our school programs and our leadership programs that we have actually seen decrease the amount of bullying in high schools. So we really feel strongly about our programs. We feel strongly working with Parks and Rec that we can accomplish great things here in Martin County. And if the commission determines that this is not a position that they are going to be able to fund within Parks and Rec, we would love to work with Parks and Rec on drafting a grant proposal for a position specifically within Special Olympics Florida that would be specific here for Martin County. And we would make sure that we continue to try to recruit. Because right now we have about 300 athletes here. Just based on the numbers, that could be closer to 3,000. And we know we'll never touch that many, but as many as we can touch, we would love the opportunity to do that. So I really appreciate your time today and appreciate you guys putting this on your agenda and focusing on the stories of Andy, Corey, and Allie and continuing to focus on Special Olympics Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public looking to address us? Yes, ma'am, please come forward. You got to speak at the microphone, otherwise nobody can hear you. State your name again for the record, please.
Thank you. I'm Linda Fithian from Palm City, and I think these are where our tax dollars need to be spent. So the only thing I didn't hear was what the requirements would be for that Special Olympics trainer or person in that park. So I'd like to know what the requirements are for that position. Oh, okay, good. And this is where tax dollars or grant money is 100%. I think you'd have the public. I do. I would back it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Take your time. Good morning, ma'am, and welcome.
Good morning.
To the members of the board, I'm Betty Marshall, a resident of Martin County for a number of years, a public school teacher for 38 years, and was the director of Special Olympics for 42 years. The impact that Special Olympics has had within this community and the support you have given us has been greatly appreciated. And we hopefully that y'all can continue to support us. I keep looking back because I have one that's out in the lobby that's being a little stubborn. They don't want to come in. But we do appreciate you all giving us the time to talk. I have worked with Martin County Special Olympics for a very long time. I'll probably be telling my age when I tell you I remember Bob Dent and back in those days. You guys have been very supportive. And hopefully you will continue to support us with Special Olympics. It's a great program. I've given most of my life to it, so I hope you guys really consider us. And I continue as long as I know I'm not working now, but I still go out with Special Olympics and cheer them on or whatever. So thank you for the time that you're giving us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your time. Anyone else would like to address us? Seeing none, we'll turn it to Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to those who spoke, thank you. I think I'd like to take us back a little bit to when this idea came to me a couple of years ago. You know, I think about all the programs and all the things we've done with our Parks Department over the last 25 years since Mr. Dennison left a long time ago. And I think how remarkable the offering is, and I think what we've, as a county, as a community, have been able to achieve with the Parks Department and Parks program. I think with the leadership we have now with our Parks program, we have revolutionized it even further. We've taken it from being a Parks Department to, I think, a world-class Parks Department, and that's no small task, and given the guys that are doing this and the girls that are out there doing it, it's fantastic. But what struck me when Special Olympics came to us and the request came and the idea came was that there's a segment of our population that doesn't have exactly the same equal access as others do. And if there was ever a need in our county, with all the things that we fund, with all the positions that we do, I can't imagine one that will impact our community more so than adding an individual to our staff to oversee a department and a program, or I say a department in the program, to really focus on those kids and those young adults. To give families the opportunity, as just was expressed, which was absolutely remarkable, what their achievements have been. But imagine being a family that doesn't even know that you can participate. And you have to deal with the challenges day to day of raising a child that has special needs, that could really, really use the same kind of accessibility, the same opportunity as every other child in Martin County gets to have. And so for the last couple of years, that's really what has driven me to support this idea. I think as it's matured, and the idea that a couple other communities in the state of Florida have explored in different ways, not exactly this way, but in different ways, I think we in Martin County have the opportunity to become the model for the state of Florida in terms of having a dedicated staff person that really oversees the programmatic side of Special Olympics to make sure that every child that wants to and every family that wants to has access to the same kind of programmatic opportunities as every other child does in Martin County. So I think it's exciting. I think the stories that we just heard from those that were involved are remarkable. And I would love to be able to say in a couple of years that we've got a couple hundred other kids and young adults that could come back and tell us those same stories and give them the same opportunities as these young folks have had. So I just think it's a cool thing and it's a cool opportunity. And again, for all of the things we do fund in this community, adding this one budget item and staff person, I think with the, how many staff do we have, Mr. Donald? 900 something? 1,100 employees?
Yes, 1,100 employees, sir.
I think in the grand scheme of 1,100 employees, we could fit another individual in our program, fund them, and have a remarkable program and be, quite frankly, the model for the state.
Commissioner Smith, thank you. You get it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yes, well, of course, this is a wonderful program, and of course, we should support this program because they achieve really, really excellent results. So I'm very much in favor of continuing to support the Special Olympics program. But there are many special needs children and adults and special interest groups in Martin County that deserve our support and that receive our support. Does anyone have any idea about the $92,000 for a staff person is just the beginning of our responsibilities. It's just the tip of that iceberg. Does anyone have any idea what transportation costs would be? Does anyone have any idea what indemnification costs would be? Does anyone have any idea what facilities would be required? Because those are the huge expenses for us. You know, certainly they provide wonderful benefit, but I need to understand the costs before I can begin to support this project.
I thought that was a question.
What?
I thought that was a question.
Is that a question for Mr.?
Yeah, it is.
Mr. Abate,
It is.
that's a
How many-
question
How
for
many
you.
millions of dollars are we talking about here? We talking about 5 buses? Are we talking about buses that are specially equipped? Are we talking about providing accompaniment when there's transportation involved? Tell me about indemnification. Tell me about facilities costs.
We just touched the surface with risk management and TRICO on whether or not transportation could be met from a program standpoint. Obviously, there's a lot that has to be still evaluated relative to transportation cost. Registration of how many people are transported towards a group, whether you have to have adults with them. There's a lot of questions that I don't have answers for today, so I'm unable to give you a fully vetted response at this time.
I think we need to understand these things fully before we take this first step. And we don't know nearly enough about this proposal. Thanks.
Commissioner Smith, back to you.
It's interesting when we talk about that aspect of it all. Years ago, we added skate parks to our inventory. Nobody really knew what the cost was going to be with adding skate parks to our inventory, but we did. We had some private funds that were raised. Rio really led the way and built the first major skate park. But that led to other skate parks in Martin County and really expanded the capacity of that need. I remember years and years ago, there was a debate at the school level about lacrosse. And lacrosse didn't used to be part of the Martin County school system. And there was a huge group out in Palm City that wanted to have lacrosse as part of the school board. And, it was kind of fought for many years. This wasn't, wasn't looked upon as being what we should have. And lo and behold, there were some changes, and lacrosse became part of our programmatic side of the school system. There will always be costs involved with adding a new program. There's no question. But I look past that, and I think you have to some extent, when you look at categories of individuals that we serve, and we'll just use the Parks Department as that discussion. There's a large segment of our community that needs access that today doesn't really have the equal same type of access that others do. And I don't know how you don't say, look, we should do everything humanly possible to make sure that special risk category has the opportunity to participate in the broadest sense that we can allow for them. And so there are certainly challenges, I'm sure, with everything, but that's something we can overcome. And we do it in every department. We do it across every field. We spend hundreds of millions of dollars on water quality, which is the right thing to do in our county. We spend millions of dollars renourishing our beaches for people to enjoy them and to add protection to our beaches. We dredge our inlet and spend millions of dollars doing that so boaters and the economy can thrive from that. This is just another piece of that. And I think it's time that we step up to that level. So, again, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Heatherington.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith, and thank you for those that came to speak today. I've had the pleasure to work with Special Olympics in the private sector supporting, and I think it's an amazing organization. And while I do agree probably there is limited access, I do agree with Commissioner Hurd's comments that there are some unknowns here, and I think it should be vetted. There's a lot of unknown costs, and I do think that's the start, which is a tremendous thing for the community. And I would wholly support us trying to assist with some grant writing or, something to continue to facilitate the program. But I'm hesitant to jump in to a position when I think it's going to evolve into some unknowns like transportation and things that we have not yet been able to discuss. But it is absolutely a very valuable organization in Martin County.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Jenkins.
I tend to agree with Commissioner Heatherington's statement to a point. Currently, we have staff that interacts with Special Olympics, correct?
Correct. For example, the Special Olympics uses Sailfish Splash Water Parks, the competition pool, for their training and their coaching.
And then other facilities, they have access to through our staff with them programming
Correct. So I know they work with Surfers for Autism at Stewart Beach and different programs. The use of the countywide park system is available.
So they're currently, but they need a person to program their own programs, correct? Is that?
Yeah, the request is for a full-time position within the department to further expand the program and kind of formalize it for Martin County only.
So I'd be all, I mean, the one gentleman that spoke is us helping them get grants to actually fund that position within their own organization. Seems more, I mean, we've already got the machine in our organization to provide staff to help them facilitate their needs and the facilities to facilitate their needs. I understand we probably need to expand that. Maybe there's some additional opportunities within our system that would be more accessible for them, that we can work on internally. But it sure kind of seems to me, just common sense, that we would help them fund that position internally in their own organization if we already have the staff that helps them program. I'm not saying this very well, I'm sorry. I'm just sitting here kind of processing it, and it doesn't seem very efficient if we've got the programmer for another organization. I'm trying to wrap my head around how that works. So, anyway.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Smith?
So as I understand it, Harold, in the conversations I've had with Special Olympics and our staff about the programmatic side, and the reason why I really favored the idea of us having our own internal staff person be responsible is the accountability to the county, to the taxpayers, for the money that we would spend at whatever level, that there are some 20 different sports, I believe, activities, sporting activities that are available, and we only avail like 7 or so, maybe 8 in Martin County as they exist today. And so to coordinate all that and to make sure that, at least for Martin County residents, and the way Special Olympics is structured, I think there's regional kind of structure to it. I think sometimes the how it gets done and how it's programmatically driven gets a little muddied up. And the grant idea is certainly a concept. I would much prefer, from my side of this thing, the accountability side, to say, if we knew we had a staff person, we knew they oversaw the program, and we knew that they had goals and objectives and numbers that would be accountable to us, to the board, and to our staff, I think for the program itself and for us, it would be much better served. And that's how I've just always kind of thought about this. In so many things the Parks Department does, there are programs we don't farm out because of that accountability factor. And we know how well we do what we're doing. And I just kind of assume in my own thought process that having that same level of accountability overseeing this program would give us and our residents the best results. But
Commissioner Heatherington?
If it were me, in the organization, I mean, there's nothing that, no offense to all of us, move slower than sometimes, government. So I would want to have that internal position, if I were Special Olympics, have the support of us and be able to be nimble and move, much more quickly and have the resources that the government, and the parks provides, but to be able to maneuver within their organization. And again, I'm willing to assist, we're willing, I think, to do anything we can to support. But I think that you're going to find that you're probably going to be more successful to have that person internal within your organization, is my personal opinion.
Thank you. I'll chime in. I did have the opportunity to speak to Mr. Doug Campbell a couple of times, and I appreciate the time. It's an interesting situation, and I appreciate Commissioner Smith bringing this forward, and he's obviously passionate about it, and I think it's terrific. We don't have to sell our community and our residents on Special Olympics. Everyone on, it's a worldwide success story. So that being said, it's not like you're coming in and you're trying to pitch us on like, hey, we got this brand new idea and we're hoping that it's going to work out. We already know. So for now, and I appreciate the conversation because I think everyone up here agrees that this is a worthwhile endeavor. And there are many worthwhile endeavors because some other people that are organizing other, senior games and everybody else might be like, well, wait a second, if you're going to do this, then we want it as well. Even though I think that the history with the Special Olympics sort of elevates them over a lot of the other organizations, not to say that the others are not worthwhile. That being said, we get into the mechanics of how does the government work, the bureaucracy, how does it work? And when Mr. Campbell and I were having conversations, originally was talk a couple of months ago about, as Commissioner Smith said, bringing a person directly into our organization. And then, I guess through the iterations of the process, when Mr. Campbell and I got a chance to speak again, he said that one of the options that was floated was a grant opportunity. And I think what I've heard today is somewhat confusing to me, so it could be confusing to the folks that are listening. I didn't believe that that meant we would help them apply for grants elsewhere. We have something here called Grants and Aids, which is one of our programs where we internally fund through taxpayer dollars a whole host of not-for-profits that come annually and reapply, or they have a revolving kind of agreement with the county. I agree with what Commissioner Hetherington, and maybe it's because we're sitting next to each other, and Jenkins, that I think the more effective, efficient position would be internally to the Special Olympics organization, spending the entire day understanding through their tiers of statewide, regional, state, regional, country, nationally, globally, to participate at that level, and that this should be brought back through our grants and aids procedure, that we are funding that position. And then let that person, to Commissioner Hurd's concern and caution, we have no idea what level of participation the county government would play, should play. We don't offer buses to too many other organizations. If I'm not mistaken, we don't offer transportation to any other organization. And I do know from Palm City Dolphins, Martin County Pioneer Lacrosse, Martin County North Little League, pick one of our groups, that transportation, or even my wife for 8 years as the athletic director, secretary at Martin County High School, the biggest portion of her job was figuring out the transportation. And not just, hey, how do we get this team from one location to another and back safely? All that comes with that. So I would personally show support with the hybrid option, which is to Commissioner Smith's idea that someone should be very specifically a Special Olympics coordinator, or whatever the title is. I'm sure there's people that have these positions elsewhere in America, that specifically works with us, that can come in and work within our Parks and Rec and advocate specifically for Special Olympics with our team. And then come to us periodically and say, okay, we're starting with this proposal. It's going to be these things. Some of it we're already doing, the swimming pool, but maybe they say, look, we need to have mountain biking or whatever the case may be, and we need to access Halpetioki. Or we're going to do something at the golf course, or we're going to do something equestrian, and we've coordinated with a private vendor out in Palm City Farms to do that. So Special Olympics is getting exactly what they needed, and they join our family of other not-for-profit organizations that have received grants, and then we can layer in what programs we want to now embrace, because I would like us to be a destination for Special Olympics as well. I think Martin County could do that. We do have the Senior Games. We're a destination for Senior Games. We also have Patriot Games and other, we're started to just include fire rescue, their tournaments here. I love it. I love that idea, especially with this organization, because I agree that if there are 300 people participating now, it could be a huge multiplier of that if the programs were based here. So after all of that, I would say that I am in complete support of having them come and apply for grants and aid, and not like you're rolling the dice on maybe, you'll come back in 6 weeks. When is that, Mr. Donaldson? Any idea when the grants and aid procedure and timing opens up? That's coming up, right?
We review that during the budget process, which is in July. Certainly, those that are on the list are what we have today. The formality of an annual application process, you currently don't have, but people can request. But we do consider it through our budget process, which is through the budget hearing, which is in July.
But the concept of putting that budget item or line item together happens prior to the budget. It happens in the months leading up to it.
Yes, well, the departments are preparing their budgets. The grants and aids folks will be supplying what their request is, and then we present that to you in July.
Okay, so it's not that you start that process in July. That process ends in July with grants. And I would tell you, and based on what I heard from my colleagues, I think that this is something that has yet to been asked for in the past, but is completely appropriate to be asked for now. And if the structure of that is an individual, if we gave you a grant for X amount of dollars, and you felt that it should be for a specific coordinator within the county, then that would be your prerogative. If you structured that person to also assist in other responsibilities that you might have, to work in other areas that could benefit your organization, having the flexibility of the grant allows you to do that versus a permanent employee in Parks and Rec that answers to Mr. Abate. I think you would have a lot more of an efficient representative. And I think to Mr. Commissioner Smith's vision of this, and I give him all the credit because he was the one that brought this great idea forward. That's how I would do it, and I think you'd be very successful with that. And then, like I said, I would also commit to also supporting opportunities that came with a price tag. So Commissioner Hurd and the rest of us could fairly look at our taxpayers and say, well, we did approve that, not with our hearts alone, but with our brains. And so with that, I'll turn it to Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, there's still a great deal of uncertainty for me with what we're proposing. What I also heard is that another option for us might be to apply to Special Olympics, the National Special Olympics or the Regional Special Olympics or whatever, for a grant to fund a position dedicated to Martin County. Did I hear that?
Sir, would you like to come forward? I did not hear that, but wait till you get to the microphone, please.
Sorry. That wasn't one of the options proposed. The option proposed was the option you discussed, where utilizing the grants within the county or money within the county, someone dedicated for recruiting athletes, coaches, aligning facilities. And just one thing I would like to speak to, because I know it's one of the major concerns that was brought up. All transportation for our athletes to any competitions is covered by us. We pay for all our transportation. So as it comes to participating in regional or state competitions, it's actually funded through Special Olympics Florida, as well as any insurance concerns. We work with outside entities to cover all of our athletes when they are training. During the training, it's covered by Special Olympics Florida.
And do any other government agencies, municipalities have a Special Olympics person who is dedicated to their government agency?
Yeah,
rather than internally having one, because I think that would be the more appropriate placement of that employee, is not within Martin County, but rather within the Special Olympics.
That's a great, so kind of hybrid models exist within each various government agencies. So within a county, there could be a government position just like the one proposed here. There's also counties that provide us grant money that directly goes to funding a position. And through a lot of counties, it's actually through the school board or the education department. So there's different models that have been successful, just to give you different models that we work with within our 67 counties.
Okay, I think we have a lot to consider here, and a lot of different possibilities to examine and to analyze further. So I'm all in favor of continuing to analyze this to see what the best course of action is.
Thank you, Commissioner Hurd. Commissioner Smith?
So, Mr. Chair, listening to everybody's conversation, there seems to be some support for a grant application or program direction, not in-house staff, but funding a position within Special Olympics that is particular to Martin County. And so I think we ought to let people leave with some kind of certainty that is more than just apply, and let's hope that that happens. So what I would do is make a motion to ask staff to work with the folks from Special Olympics to work on the dollar value, the request for a grant to be included in our grants and aids program as part of our budget that will come to us in July.
That's reasonable. I'll second that.
Say that louder.
That was reasonable. I will second that.
Thank you. Okay. We have a motion now by Commissioner Smith that was just articulated. It was seconded by Commissioner Jenkins.
And what about, so no transportation, what about indemnification? What about use of facilities? What about accompanying the athletes to these events? There's still so much uncertainty for me.
I can address some of those, but we'll let Mr. Donaldson chime in.
As you proposed it, the position would be funded and be staffed with the nonprofit or the Special Olympics of Martin County, and we would continue to coordinate with them today and make all our parks available, perhaps some more coordinated activities, given the fact that there would be one person designated to work with our Parks Department. And I don't see any changes in terms of liability or transportation, since they've not requested it, and as was stated earlier, that the group relies upon them themselves to transport their athletes around. If in such time that they would like to have county transportation, we would bring that back to the board for discussion. But at this point, it sounds like it's simply a staff person that would be helping with both their competitions and training and coordinating with our Parks Department more carefully, so that their activities throughout all of our parks are better managed.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Heatherington.
I just want to make sure I understood the motion. Through the grants and aid process, you're proposing that Special Olympics work with staff, come up with a dollar amount like all the other organizations, and they come back and they request, let's say $50,000, and they are granted that amount. It's not an open-ended, we're going to add a program. It's a specific dollar amount that they will request, and then we will then approve that during grants and aid. So there's still vetting that will be done. Okay.
And there'll still be voting that'll be done. When we vote on our grants and aid program, like we do all of our other budget items, there'll still be the requirement for 3 people to vote yes or no.
Mr. Donaldson.
Just to add clarification, my understanding is that this would automatically be included in the grants and aids as part of the request, with the dollar amount to be coordinated with the Parks Department, what they see as the appropriate grant amount for a position.
True, but as with all of our budget items, if the board at the time of those adoptions says, no, we don't like this, they can still vote against it.
Yeah, absolutely. It would have to be voted on, but we will just simply include that item as one of the
Which when we get grants and aids, they're all broke down by line or by grant program, and we go through them, and we can vote on them all separately or all together. That's the will of the board and the chair.
Commissioner Hurd, before you speak, let me just say that I thought that clarification was confusing.
Me too. It was unclarifying. So here's the clarification that I see. That is that our grants and aids, every organization asking for a grant has to formally request a grant from Martin County and a formal amount, and then the board approves or disapproves that. It's not automatic. It doesn't just go on our grants and aids. You have to make a formal request for a grant from us, and then we consider whether to approve that grant or not.
That's how I see it.
Correct?
Mr. Abate, you have your light on, sir?
If approved in July, we might want to consider formalizing the relationship through a memorandum of understanding with the Special Olympics Florida that really formalizes the relationship. Obviously, we work with legal and administration to firm up exactly what we expect, what the facility uses are. I think that would be appropriate.
I think that's a parallel course. It's a very good idea, but it's a parallel course. And just to finalize this before we vote, because obviously it's an important topic and we've given it, I think, a fair vetting. Yes, my initial comments about the grants and aids timing and procedure is that the Special Olympics would participate for the first time in that process. There is another opportunity, but you have heard from the five of us basically where we are and the value of the opportunity, a broader opportunity in Martin County. So it's not like you're going to come in with your application and biting your fingernails wondering like, is this going to work or not? But I don't want to take it out of the process because then I can guarantee you that next meeting, several other very worthwhile not-for-profits will be showing up to try to leapfrog the process, and we don't want that. But at the end of the day, I think to Commissioner Smith's vision and the folks that came here, and especially you, Mr. Campbell, who really worked very diligently on this, your heartfelt lobbying might sound like an inappropriate word, but your passion for this was what swayed me. So I appreciate that. What we have here is a motion, and correct me, motion maker, if this is wrong. What we have here is a motion for Special Olympics to participate in our grants and aids procedure, which is finalized in July. We've also heard from our Parks and Rec director that at the same time, with whatever the timing, as soon as possible, can begin the process of also shaping a better understanding through a memorandum of understanding on what your requests are beyond the individual person, what your requests are, so that when that person does get hired by you all, hopefully it works that way, you will then already not have wasted 3 or 4 months waiting to have that. That person can come in having an understanding of, this is my marching orders. And a year from now, when you have formalized that and they've had a year under their belt, maybe you come in with a different wish list and says, somewhere in Michigan, a Special Olympics group is doing something unique that we want to try here that we haven't yet. I don't know. So we have that motion made by Commissioner Smith. Is that the gist of your motion, sir? Yes, he's shaking his head yes. Seconder agree? Okay, that is the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Let's do this. We're a couple minutes away from our closed captioning break, so instead of starting our next agenda item, we'll take 10 minutes, and we'll be back at 10:30 for our next agenda item. Thank you very much for coming in.
Give me the high sign when you're ready.
Okay, we are back from our closed captioning break. It is still March 7th, 2023. We're going to continue with our agenda. We're taking an item out of order to accommodate folks from the public that are here to discuss departmental number 5, Affordable Housing Update, which will be presented by Mr. Stokas and a special guest, and then we will have a more broader conversation on some of the issues that are happening or could potentially be happening in Tallahassee. Gentlemen, good morning. You are recognized.
Morning, Mr. Chair. George Stokas, Assistant County Administrator. With me is Mr. Tom Lanahan. Are you the Executive Director?
I am.
The Executive Director of the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. We are here today as a part of a regular update on affordable housing to discuss legislation that's going through in Tallahassee, also known as Senate Bill 102. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Lanahan.
Thank you. Good morning, Tom Lanahan, Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. The first thing I want to say is I'm presenting information that from my review of proposed Senate Bill 102. Treasure Coast is not the author of this bill. I'm merely the messenger, so don't beat me up too bad. So I think I put this state housing strategy statement of legislative intent right up here at the beginning. It's actually quite a ways deep into the bill because they put things in statutory order in the bill. But I think this gives you a good idea of where they are coming from on this. It's not often we get a crystal clear statement of legislative intent. This is pretty clear. That the state's goal is ensuring that each Floridian has a safe, decent, and affordable house. And then they're really looking for state and local governments working in partnership and also with communities and the private sector with financial as well as regulatory commitment to accomplish that goal. So these are the different things I'm going to speak with you about today. Just to give a little layout, I guess we'll just jump right into the content here. So so initially in the category what I'm calling preemptions, although this first one is not technically a preemption, it is also not new. This is a provision that was placed into the statutes about 2 years ago, and it provides an option where the county may approve affordable housing on existing commercial or industrial zoned land. The change that's proposed in Senate Bill 102 would remove residential. So right now what it says is that the county can approve affordable housing on residential, commercial, or industrial zoned land. And so they're proposing to take out residential. It has to be affordable per the requirements that are already in the statute, so that's between 30 and 120% AMI. Give you some figures here of what those numbers are in Martin County. Like I said, it's not a new provision. It's not a preemption. It's flexibility for local governments, so counties and cities can both access this with identical provisions. And if you want to see the exact language, it's on page 11 of the 94 pages of Senate Bill 102. Really, this is geared towards infill work at your existing commercial sites. And you could avail yourself of just the commercial piece. You don't have to also avail yourself of the industrial piece of that. It is optional. And basically what it allows you to do is, I didn't say what it allows you to do. It allows you to, you basically can grant approval for those projects without changing the land use and without changing the zoning. You don't have to do comp plan amendments, et cetera. You can have a different process. Next, so this is the main event here, right? So this is where this is a preemption. This is proposed in the Senate bill that the county must authorize multifamily and mixed-use residential and commercial or mixed-use zoning if at least 40% of the units are affordable. And I apologize, the item that I sent that's included in your packet says 30%. The requirement is 40%, and it has to be for 30 years. That's where I got the 30 from. You may not require a land use or zoning change.
You may not require special exception, conditional use, variance. There's a whole list now of things that you may not require just to get the residential use there. You may not restrict the density below the highest allowed density on any unincorporated land in the county where residential development is allowed. Now, I have highest allowed density in quotation marks. That's the exact language. I would defer to your county attorney whether that means highest allowed density by right or highest allowed density if I do this special program or that special program. I'm not exactly sure what that means. My conservative mind would say that it's the by right, but, you know, I don't know. That's an attorney question. You may not restrict the height below the highest currently allowed height for commercial or residential development within your jurisdiction, within 1 mile of the proposed development. So that's not the height anywhere in the county. It's the height within 1 mile of that development. So if you have differential height requirements, or 3 stories, whichever's higher. And then you must administratively approve the proposed development without action by the Board of County Commissioners if it meets the other land development regulations. And they call out specifically parking and setbacks, for example, but it would be all of the rest of your requirements. It doesn't waive the need to have drainage or landscaping or paving the parking lot or any of those kinds of things. And it also has to be otherwise consistent with the comprehensive plan. So they're not, waiving the coastal control line or some of those other things that are in there.
Tom, can we ask
Yes.
questions? Or do you want to do your whole?
Mr. Chairman, I don't want, do you want to do, I only have a few slides. If we could bounce back, that would be probably best for me. Okay, thank you. And then it also says you must consider, so it's not a, thou shalt, must consider reduced parking if the development was in 1/2 mile of a, again, quote unquote, major transit stop. You get to define that in your land development regulations. They're not telling you what a major transit stop is. I don't know what that is. I know what it is in places with, light rail or trains, but I don't know what that is in a bus environment. You have to comply with, development would have to comply with all the other state and local laws. This is in effect for 10 years. And there's identical provisions for municipalities. And again, that's on pages 12 through 13 of Senate Bill 102. There are some other preemptions that are in there. You're not allowed to have rent control. There's very limited procedures in statutes now that allow rent control. I think there's only one county in the state that has it. And you have to adopt it every year and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, this would take all of that out, so you can't have that at all. And then it also provides 2 different programs related to tax exemptions. The first is optional, and here's the provisions, you know, over 50 units, 20% of which have to be affordable. Then you get kind of 2 stages of exemption depending on how many of them are affordable. And then there's a mandatory program that developments that have over 70 dwelling units, and they're affordable for folks making between 80 and 120% of AMI. Then you get a 75% exemption if they're at that range, and then if there's 100% of them, if they're affordable to people making less than 80%, then it's 100% exemption. And that lasts way out to 2059. A point on the optional one, the local government that adopts it, it would only be for that local government's taxes. So for example, if a municipality pursued the optional program, it would only be their city taxes. They can't exempt your county taxes from it, but if you guys did it, it would be your county taxes. And then there's other things that I put this in here to give you an idea of, this is more of the thought process that's going on, and frankly, in the, this is what they're the state is looking for counties to be getting into as they pursue resolutions to the affordable housing issues. So looking for incentives, innovative solutions. So you see urban infill, redevelopment, land use efficiency, mixed income projects, those kinds of things. There's a statement in there about state funding only going to local governments that have incentives. Interlocal agreements encouraged between counties and cities. And then infill and minimizing sprawl. So this is interesting. The preemption part of it has the potential of triggering sprawl, but here they're saying we don't want sprawl. And then I like this part in here about housing available to the workforce should prioritize proximity to employment and services. We think that's important. Preservation of housing stock, recognizing unique housing needs. So this gets into folks that have different abilities or age or some of those other things. Wide range of housing options. And then a call for the Schimberg Center to develop statewide data on housing needs, which I think would be useful. And then the OPAGA, that's the policy shop at the legislature. Study program effectiveness in other states and within the state periodically to bring in some best practices. And then the funding part, and there's a lot of it. $150 million new dollars annually for 10 years directed towards SAIL, which is the rental housing program, creating a $100 million tax donation program, so you can, an entity that owes taxes can donate money into the program in lieu of paying their taxes. So it basically redirects revenue. That also goes towards SAIL. $100 million towards the Hometown Hero program, so this is down payment assistance. A minimum of $10,000 up to 5% of the first mortgage amount at a maximum of $35,000 as a zero-interest loan. And this builds on the program they put in place last year, which was limited to different first responder categories. This is broad-based. This is any full-time employee of a Florida-based company with a household income up to 150% of the state or local median. So that's a much broader program than what they had before. And then allocations at $252 million to SHIP, $109 million plus the $150 million above going to SAIL, and then $100 million for inflation protection on previously approved projects. So these are projects that are already in the pipeline that are now getting to the construction stage, and their budgets don't work because of the inflation in construction costs and material. So this provides protection so those projects can keep going. And then you can use job growth grant fund money towards infrastructure that supports affordable housing. Ooh, do I have a way to back up here, George?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that other slide is just kind of for me to have some data. So that is my presentation of this law that was written by somebody else, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that you are informing us, you're not advocating that.
That is correct. I am informing you about what these provisions are. I would say to you that the Strategic Regional Policy Plan that is my guiding document does support affordable housing and does support making that connection between housing, workplace locations, and transportation. So those are all key factors. The specific provisions in here, I'm not taking a position on.
I agree with the same things that you said your organization agrees with, but we need to make those have those conversations locally because it might work here. It could be totally different in Broward, Jacksonville, Tampa, pick a place other than here. We have to make that decision here, and we're trying to work towards that. Commissioner Smith.
Sure, thank you, Tom. So I don't know, on the analysis of some of this, what I'm going to ask you, you have thought through or not thought through. So if you're like, no, I haven't, that's fine, right?
Okay.
So when you were going through the density portion of it where someone could maximize whatever the existing density was within a half mile or a mile, whatever that calculation was. What's interesting is in Martin County, if you were to maximize the density of a site, given all of our other land development regulations and codes, very rarely are you ever able to achieve the maximum density, if ever. So the question is, with this, just take a hypothetical, would you be able to, would the density trump the land development regulations that we have that get you to 8 units per acre, because then you wouldn't really be maximizing?
Right. So as I understand it, you know, from the limited language, it's interesting, it's 2 pages out of 94 is where all the action is. They still, a proposed development would still have to meet all of the land development regulations as far as, and specifically, you know, where you usually get hung up on development is parking. Very often, you cannot meet, you can't hit your maximum numbers because in meeting parking, you eat up enough of the site that you can't fit all the units that you could potentially be allowed to have. So you would still have to meet, a developer would still have to meet parking, they would still have to meet setbacks, they would still have to meet landscape code, they would still have to meet stormwater drainage, which is the other big one that, you know, that uses up the site and limits your ability to hit those density numbers. So, if I could back up 1 second, let me just clarify that the density provision as it's currently proposed is anywhere within the unincorporated land. The height is within 1 mile of the proposed development site. So it's two different rules depending on if it's density or height is what they're proposing. It's
But those two,
a little nuance.
those two almost seem to be in conflict because, again, if somebody were to propose a 4-story affordable housing project within a mile of another 4-story building, which is how I guess I sort of understand that you could use that 4-story, but our code also allows 4-story in most instances, and some you can't, but most. But they wouldn't ever be able to achieve 15 units per acre. They could go 4 stories, but you could never achieve the 15 units per acre if all those other land development regulations kick in.
You could,
And I know, again,
sure, there are ways to get to 15 units an acre with 4 stories. They get expensive, as you're talking about, you know, either, you know, ground floor parking with units above, or, you know, some of these other kinds of scenarios, but
if you add in the tax incentives at the tail end of the presentation, if somebody's going for that direction, that may offset, and I'm sure that's why that's in there. I mean, that may offset those building costs, because you're right, when you go above 2 stories, the parking capacity, the cost of providing that, the elevators and everything else that start kicking in.
Elevators, yep.
Become exponential in the world, certainly in the world of affordability. So just interesting where this is going to land.
Yeah, and we didn't, if I could, you know, I didn't sit and do any kind of financial analysis of, you know, that's beyond my expertise to do. Someone in the development community would need to do that.
No, when we talked about this last 2 weeks ago, I just thought it would be important for everybody to kind of hear the presentation we heard at the joint meeting. So everybody was kind of aware of where things are going. And we're far from probably being done. But I think what's important is what was shared with us. Both Ron, I think, shared this, and I think the gentleman from the Affordable Housing Coalition shared the comprehensiveness, whether you like this idea or you don't. Right? The comprehensiveness of what is involved in this was not what the normal process would be going into creating a piece of legislation. Somebody says, hey, I think we ought to have an affordable housing piece of legislation, and then it kind of matures from there. There was a lot of upfront work done on this long before this bill was filed to get to this, whether we like it or we don't like it. And
it does appear that a lot of thought went into this, and it's got pieces all over the statutes that they've that they're seeking to make changes to with the density provisions, the tax provisions, some of the other stuff, because there's more in there than I did not give you a top-to-bottom presentation of everything that's in SB 102. There's other things in there, but they didn't, they're either not preemptive or they didn't seem particularly significant.
And then I think I don't know where Commissioner Hurd wants to go with her conversation, but I think her questions earlier about the other bills that have been filed only pile on top of this, so that some of our codes would potentially be preemptive that would allow clearly a lot more density to occur if those were to occur, and blended with this would be significantly more impactful on us and problematic.
And in disclosure, I'll be honest. I have not reviewed those other bills that you mentioned. So I'm interested to hear what they're about too. So,
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Heatherington?
We've gotten a lot of emails and phone calls. So from your presentation, I think what I'm hearing you say is that our land development, well, what you did say was our land development regulations, our height restriction would still be applicable.
yes.
I mean, I think that the sentiment out in the public is that this and when I first saw it, it was my sentiment too, that they would, we would be required to allow 8-story buildings, but that is not the case according to that language, right?
That is not that's not my understanding reading this. It relates to what is already allowed in your jurisdiction as far as height. This is a different story depending on what county you're in the state. There are or cities, frankly, there are places where the height limitation is the flight path of the international airport that planes go over Fort Lauderdale. Well, if you can meet FAA requirements, good luck and God bless. They don't really have a lot of that, not at this level of stringency that this county has as far as height, for example. So this is one of those, the story will be a little different in different jurisdictions as to what the impacts are going to be.
And the tax exemptions are optional in all jurisdictions?
No, one of the thank you, George. It's like two. Yeah. So one program is optional. One is mandatory. The number 2 there, D2, if they meet those provisions and submit the necessary paperwork and have all the correct restrictions in place, then they get those tax exemptions. The D1 is an optional program that you can choose to do. That is kind of would end up sort of layered on top of it, because it actually allows slightly smaller projects and potentially different ranges of affordability.
Still painting with a very broad brush. I think you've helped allay some fears, but I think that we still have a lot of work to do to make sure that we're not preempted for some of the things that are important here in Martin County.
Thank you. Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, that some of the provisions that are most disturbing to me are that the county must authorize multifamily and mixed-use residential and commercial. We don't allow it currently at all, but we must authorize it if at least 30% of the units are affordable. You don't require a land use or zoning change, so the public isn't afforded an opportunity to review that. We don't get to review it at all. It's approved administratively. We must consider reduced parking. The mandatory program for exemption of property taxes, it lasts, if it's between 75% and 100% is exempted, and it lasts it lasts up to 36 years. And
I did do the math. I know it's a long, long time.
36 years of getting absolutely no taxes, which is a real kick in the teeth. And also, another one is if we don't have incentives or financial assistance, no SHIP money. looks like to me.
Or other options.
Well, we don't.
Or
we don't know.
any other state funding. I mean,
Yeah,
it's-
it's a statement of policy, which is, threatening.
Yeah. There's some really, really harmful policy in here. If we want to make those decisions, if we want to cut our heads off, we can certainly do that if we choose, but we don't want the state taking those actions for us.
To jump in, I would say that, yes, there were certain things that I had read and heard about as well that seemed really damning for Martin County, and some of those you had said that there were ways that we could sort of opt out. However, and Commissioner Hurd just said it, one of the most challenging things is like, yeah, you can opt out, but don't ask us for any money or anything else, so they still have the ability to punish you if you don't want to participate. The other problem is that up to 70, God bless you, she's sneezing on the truth. The other point about 75% of the value is tax exempt. All we talk about is development trying to pay for itself. That's a complete pull the rug out from underneath us with that. For up to 36 years. Now, I get the concept if you're going to be a developer that's going to quote unquote, have a percentage of the property or project be affordable. If it's only affordable for 10 years, 10 years when you're talking about purchasing or owning something goes by really fast. So I like the concept that the developer would have to keep those units as quote unquote affordable for a much longer time frame, potential three generations. But attached to that is the ability that they might be tax exempt for the entire duration of that time. So again, it just is shocking that, look, I've only been at this not nearly as long as some of my colleagues, but to me, this is one of the most egregious, my Daniel Webster here next to me, he's a real wordsmith, is egregious, might not even be strong enough. This is one of the most challenging things that they have sent down from Tallahassee. And they've sent some doozies. This is a really, it disrupts everything. And it's weird because I get everyone's talking about affordable essential housing. I see Nick Blunt here, where we've been working on it is something that I've sort of tried to have a continue the conversation on here, but not anywhere near this. And this will set our efforts back because it'll scare everyone into thinking that you can't have anything, because it's going to be all of these things. So now we could have come up with some reasonable Martin County-centric solutions here to address, because the issue is real. I mean, and it's not just for people that are struggling financially, and it's not just for firefighters, first responders, and teachers. It's for nearly every hourly employee. And I think the statistic that I heard a while ago that still bears repeating about the concept of a $15 an hour minimum wage, that's $32,000 a year. So, this is going to really complicate our local efforts to have some meaningful solutions for our residents. The one-size-fits-all approach, this is the new poster child on how terrible a one-size-fits-all approach is. Commissioner Heatherington.
I was curious, because it sounds like we're all on the same page of really thinking it's kind of a dismal bill, but what is, if anybody knows, Florida Association of Counties' position on this, and are they going to be advocating, for local control on this particular, or are we pretty much on our own with our lobbyists and our voices and our residents? And are there other counties within the state that we are aware of that feel strongly as we do that we could work in unity with?
I'll just simply state that the Florida Association of Counties has been in opposition to any preemption or of local government. But we do have John Mell here, who's been, and Sarah Powers, who's her second day. So
welcome.
welcome to the wood chipper. But John can give us a more precise update on where that is. Of course, session just started today, and so the other note we must remember is that these bills will evolve significantly over the coming weeks, and some of these may disappear and reappear as new bills somewhere else. So our plan is to continue to follow all of these bills, and we will weigh in opposition as need be throughout the session. John?
John Mayo, Martin County Ecosystems / former interim county legislative coordinator. First of all, I want to introduce Sarah. Many of you know Sarah Powers, and she started yesterday.
Did you bring your brass knuckles with you? Good for you.
But she knows the process well. She'll hit the ground running, be a great addition to the team. As is usual, county administrator really said it well. The FAC is gathering input from the counties. They've not taken positions on many issues yet because session just started. So we've been going through committee weeks for the last couple of months. And, you know, these bills have been popping up and have been amended in committee. This particular bill, the Live Local bill, is actually on the Senate side. It has cleared all its committees, and it has its first floor hearing tomorrow among maybe 8 other bills. So it's clearly a priority of the Senate president. She made that clear in her opening remarks for the session. The House side, there's a similar bill. It's not an identical bill. That has been assigned 3 committees. It has not had a committee hearing yet. Its first would be tomorrow. So you kind of have to watch both of those progress. The other thing that we have to keep an eye on is what they might do in appropriations, because this touches on appropriations. They can add conforming language to an appropriations bill very late in the session that would either kind of insert some of this or maybe even expand it. And I guess I would just add to Commissioner Smith's point about how this bill could be more impactful depending upon some of the other preemption bills' success. For instance, you know, the one that Commissioner Hurd brought up, 1240, 1197, that bill would would preempt us on stormwater rules that exceed.
Can you explain generally for the people that are not familiar with the numbers what's happening?
So SB 1240 has an identical House Bill 1197. Those are exact identicals, which usually helps the process. That's a large preemption bill that preempts local governments from having any rules, ordinances that would address water quality, stormwater, wetlands, and pollution. And it would basically remove several of the pretty significant shaping LDRs that we use in Martin County. And should those bills get passed and signed into law, that would influence the effect of 102.
Significantly, here anyway.
Of course, yes, sir.
So to add on to John and Don's comments about FAC. So the way FAC's policy process works, we spend a better part of the early fall into the winter months formulating and adopting our policy language for the upcoming session. This came much after the adoption of those policies. So to Don's point, one of the core guiding principles of the Association of Counties is to oppose preemption, period, at all levels. Whether it's the highest level or the lowest level, we oppose preemption. There are guiding policies within FACT that give the executive board of the Association County power not to have to go back to the full body of the Association of Counties to get approval for something specific like this. So even though we don't have, coming into session, a written objection or critique, if you will, of this strategy, the executive board has within its power the ability to do so. Coincidental to that, FAC has its FAC days next week in Tallahassee. So I have no doubt that there will be a thorough review and probably adoption of some formal position on Sarah's questions that she raised this morning on her bills. as well as this bill and what it looks like. I would also expect, because this is the number one priority for the Senate President, it's like the number 1 or 2 priority for the House Speaker, which I think I shared with you all a couple weeks ago. Something will come of this at some level. And so probably at some point, whether it's Martin County or a whole bunch of counties, and I suspect it's probably all 67 counties will have something to say about it, it would be my sort of feeling or thought that FAC will come out with some guidance language that if this is going to be adopted, these are things we would like to see modified, changed, eliminated, added to, or something. Because I think, as one of our presenters had at our joint meeting with the 2 regional planning councils, you know, coming out, even though you'd like to come out incredibly aggressive against maybe any kind of a bill that had preemptions, at the highest levels at which this is being supported, sometimes it doesn't go well for those that go crazy on how it's approached. So I thought I would have is, you know, if we want to delve into this further, or if the Regional Planning Council wants to, you know, we haven't had this, well, we sort of had the conversation at the joint meeting, but our board hasn't, recommending what ideas do we like? What would we like local government to have the ability to do within legislation that we don't have today? So that we would be acting in a process of not complete objection, but look, we don't like this, but we do like this. These 5 things would be really helpful for us if we had them. These 20 things over here would not be so helpful, that kind of a thing. And then to Sarah's point on the other pieces of legislation, I think what I know of them so far, and again, we didn't have conversation at FAC about them, but they will, I have no doubt, will come up. I think the extenuating consequences of that, you know, past what it says on its face value, go right to this saying, look, if you couldn't meet your maximum density, you could now, because those rules are in the way of achieving maximum density, I think. So I would expect we would have full discussion next Wednesday.
Commissioner Smith, you've been with FAC for a long time, their former president. Let me ask you a question of your opinion. Is there any advantage, is there any county in Florida that would see this as an advantage for them? No one likes, even the big counties don't like Tallahassee taking away their opportunity to make their own determinations. 67 counties got to be opposed to this. Am I wrong? Is there any advantage for the big guys?
There's probably 2 answers to that. On its face value of preemption, I can't imagine that there's not 67 counties that are not completely in line with we don't like the idea of the state preempting us or the federal government preempting us in our local control and local authority. Would there potentially be some counties that would think that some of the contents of this would be advantageous for them? I would imagine yes.
All right. So we're not going to have a unified voice on everything at FAC. Some big counties will.
No, but what typically happens on something like this are those counties that might want something like this would probably stay silent because they're just beneficiaries of it if that's how they see things.
But then they won't, I get that, which is, silent is better than advocating for it.
Right.
However, they won't be advocating against it.
For instance, if FAC next week were to take a position in opposition of home rule, let's just say that's where it ends, because this gets very muddy relative to how it's done and how it's stated, I would think you'd have 100% support for preemption.
For the general idea of home rule, but that's the general idea of home rule.
Well, more than general. It is one of the three core guiding foundational components of the Association of Counties. And so anything that steps past, I mean, there have been some things you might want to be preempted on, but it never gets the support of FAC because it goes against all of what we stand for.
Thank you. Commissioner Hurd.
Well, I know that one of in our legislative priorities that one of the strongest points about our priorities is that we oppose preemption of home rule. And these two bills, Senate Bill 102 and Senate Bill 1240, are the poster children for heinous preemption bills. So Senate Bill 1240 prohibits counties from adopting laws, regulations, rules, or policies relating to water quality or quantity, pollution control, stormwater, pollutant discharge prevention, and wetlands. So we need to take a stand against both of these bills, strong stands against both of these bills. These embody the very things that we oppose most about the legislature's attempt to grab our authority.
Agreed, and I think our county would suffer the worst consequences more than everyone else. So, let's hear some motions.
What's the most effective way to oppose it?
Oh, wait, I apologize. Before we make motions, I would like to allow the public to have it. Would you want to go first?
I just want to make a brief comment.
Please.
And that's the reason why I asked what Florida Association of Counties, because I think if you have a larger voice, you know, the stronger you are. And if Collier County is in the same, you know, boat as us, you know, unanimously agreeing, then we have a more significant strategic approach, the better. I mean, I think we're all on the same page, but I feel like we need more horsepower
Absolutely.
to oppose this.
Agreed. I will, yes, sir.
Well,
You don't have to put the light on to see you.
one question is, what's the most effective way to oppose it? Writing a letter, we do that all the time.
Multi-pronged.
I guarantee if we spend some time educating our 160,000 residents of what exactly we're up against so they understand it, that's the way to do it. And
Well, then,
I would like to see us
I have some suggestions.
don't do a very good job at educating our public of what's going on. This is a prime example or a prime thing that we could get people's attention and get their behind the effort also.
I would like to offer the public that has not spoken at this morning during general public comment, you're more than welcome to come. You can fill out a form afterwards if you'd please come. In the meantime, just state your name for the record, and then you can fill out a request to speak form afterwards. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Jim Fithy, and I live in Palm City. And this document should have, in my view, a clause at the top, because I'm pretty much opposed to the whole idea of everything that's in there, pretty much. I'm just a regular citizen. But what I see is all the things that are in a document like this. First of all, it should have a clause at the top that says, this is all good for the regular people, but not for the people who actually wrote it. Because you'll never see any sort of affordable housing on the block of an individual who's written documents like this. Never. There's thousands of communities in this country where police, teachers, firefighters, there's no way they can afford housing in Jupiter Island. You can go down the list. There's thousands of communities like that. And those are the very people who write documents like this. For the regular people, we can have a 4-story affordable housing down the street from us, but they will never do it. It was like when the new medical program came out. None of the politicians that voted for that actually have that medical program. None of them. It's for the regular people. And so this document, if it wasn't so terrible, it would be laughable. It's comical. And I'm so glad that the commissioners recognize that, because the general public has no idea. When you look at that document, you'd have to be a mathematician, an actuary, to figure it out. So I don't know who sits down and writes these things, but basically what they're trying to do is what it's always been trying to do: take over. Okay? Take the authority from the local community and hand it over to the people that aren't in any way dictated by themselves. I mean, it's sad, but it's what's happened in the country. They should be the very first people that have to be affected by the things that they propose for the regular people. And so thank you so much, commissioners, for saying your piece. It sounds to me like you get it on this document. I wouldn't get it. My wife is the one that figures this stuff out. She passed it on to me. She's so upset about these things, and she's written to all of you. And I really hope that you stand firm and are against these things, because, oh boy, they try to slip them in. The person that wrote it isn't even here. I don't know why. The people who, they have to represent the people that write this thing and say, no, I didn't write it, but I'm here to read it. So I don't get it. But anyway, I'm just new to all this. I've probably taken up more than my 3 minutes, but I'm against the whole thing unless the people who write these things are the first ones to have to deal with it. Affordable housing in particular. It's not a bad idea. It's just that they're not the ones that are affected by it. We are, the regular people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Come on forward.
Sorry, not working fast enough.
That's okay. Good morning, ma'am. Welcome.
Good
State your name for the
morning.
record, please.
My name is Laura Joby. I live in Martin County. Like the previous speaker, I want to thank all of you. You all seem to be behind, and getting it. The one statement I want to make is that for many years I lived in Darien, Connecticut, a small town in Connecticut. In 1989, Darien, the state of Connecticut passed what they called 830G, which is a program similar to this, trying to provide affordable housing to people. This is how many years later, there's now overbuild, there's disregard to wetlands, there's disregard even for turnarounds for large fire trucks to enter a facility. Parking is, there is no street parking in a small town, but there's nowhere for these people to park. All I can tell you is this is 20 or 30 years later, there is no advantage to people looking for affordable housing with these programs. The only people who have taken advantage and have really left the state are the builders. They come in, they usurp all of the local zoning. They're not interested in the wetlands. They're not interested in the sewer, the drainage, the water. They build, they sell their property, they give you a certain percentage of affordable housing, which is never enough to fill the void we have, and then they walk out the door. And the communities are left with the residents of that, of how it didn't work. So all I can say is commend all of you for looking into it, seeing that it's possibly something that would be detrimental to Martin County, and that we need to fight it. I believe we need to inform the public in any way we can so that those people can write, call their representatives, so that the people in Tallahassee know that a majority of Florida counties and towns do not agree with this. It doesn't work, and it doesn't help people looking for affordable housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address us on this topic? Sir, look vaguely familiar. Please state your name for the record.
Nick Blunt, City of Stewart, live in the City of Stewart, but in Martin County, and chair the Housing Solutions Council. I've spoken here before. I want to say, first of all, I do respect your the thoughts you have and opinions you have on the defense of home rule. I understand that. But I didn't spend the last 4 years of my retirement working on an issue that's at the forefront of this community and really at the forefront throughout the state, evidently, with this being a state bill now that's being discussed. So I support efforts and I'm not talking the specifics of this bill, but I support any efforts at all levels of government to address this issue. I couldn't help but think to say, well, would this bill even have been introduced if everyone was pleased in how the efforts to take care of our workforce had been making progress? And I don't think they have, and I think that's why this bill has been introduced. I hope then that this county will have means to address each one of these issues, maybe at a local level, on, well, how can we address it to expedite building affordable housing without being told how to at the state level? But I think that's the only reason it was introduced, is there was enough outcry in the state that it's not being taken care of, and that's why it's here. So if we've got a counter-action plan here in the county, I think we need to expedite that. So thanks.
Thank you, sir. I think it's interesting because, Mr. Blunt, you've been working for 4 years with your group on how to bring affordable housing within the culture and fabric of our community. when I first heard that the legislature was taking up affordable housing, I was like, good, because we get an email each day from Florida Association of Counties, and every day they have some situation where counties throughout the state have been addressing it in clever and unique ways specific to their communities. The expression one size fits all, because some of these things might work in Tampa, but they won't work here. So we'll go to, is that, anyone else want to address us from the public? Seeing none, only one bite of the apple. We'll turn to Commissioner Smith, and then I have a couple of suggestions for Commissioner Jenkins on how we can promote this. To me, this has the same kind of potential catastrophic result that a hurricane would, and how we promote and educate and inform our residents about a pending hurricane here in Martin County could have this same kind of issue. So we can just address that after Commissioner Smith.
So I'll tail onto that, and I was going to tail on to Commissioner Jenkins' comments. I think two things I think we ought to do, have to do, should do. One, just for formality purposes to our delegation, we should oppose based upon preemption. End of story. I think we should send a formal letter to FAC, just stating our position, not that it's not obvious, but stating it to them for next week, so that if there's 67 other counties that agree, but that conversation will be had. But I just putting it in writing, I think from a formality perspective would be good. I think to Harold's question, and I think to what Commissioner Campy just said, I think educating our public as to what the potential of both or these three bills that are filed have to Martin County, I think we need to do every communicatable kind of tool that we know of, and throughout session, non-stop, keep messaging what those mean to Martin County, and the fact that, to Commissioner Campy's point, all 67 counties are not the same, and what fits here doesn't fit in Tampa or wherever. So, and then if there are suggestions, and Nick, maybe you can be helpful in this. If there are ideas that you would like to see relative to what legislation could have incorporated into it, I think that would be important to get that to us. That protected home rule, protected our comp plan issues, our land development regulations, but if they made sense and there was something that the legislature felt it needed to do, because they're going to do something. And so if we're silent and we add nothing to the conversation, then we either missed an opportunity to fix something that would otherwise be helpful in the affordable housing conversation. And also, it's one thing to oppose something, it's also the other to offer alternative suggestions that would be beneficial to us, not to the other 66 counties perhaps. And right this second, I can think of some things that just in Ed's conversation over the last year or so on affordable housing, some things that you might want to see happen. Probably most, if not all of that, is doable at the local level, but it's worth having at least that list of things to mull over for us, at least as a board, to think about, and to give our legislators the opportunity to chime in on.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. As we've already done, we're having at least once a month, if not more often, an update from our staff, and it will be stakeholders in the community that will come before us to share with each of the 5 commissioners and everyone that's paying attention to what some of our unique, customized, essential housing solutions will be for here. The suggestion I like what Commissioner Smith said about, you can't just say, no, we don't like it. They're going to be like, well, then what do you recommend? One of the things that I've been thinking about is that the state has in the past, whether it's the EAR, which is the appraisal and evaluation and appraisal report, where they ask counties to come up with some kind of local strategy of what their plan is, and then it has to be submitted back to the state for review within a certain amount of period of time. If affordable housing is an important issue in Tallahassee, which I welcome, not this, we'll ram this down your throats, this is our version of affordable housing. If they said within 24 months, every county has to submit some type of proposal on what they are doing locally to address the housing needs and requirements of all residents, senior citizens and newly graduated high school seniors that want to work and live in the communities that they grew up in. They count too. So submit these to us for a review so that at least every county looks and has to prove that they're taking it seriously and participating versus just maybe they are. Some of the solutions about high-rise, never mind high-rise, but any type of development of projects, I still believe that the county government should not be in the housing business. We should be in the housing facilitation business. We should be helping people do that. And we'd also have to look to see, is a developer legitimate in his desire to assist? Not as some kind of a backdoor trick. Hey, if I have to have 18 units in order to get these new incentives, I have 18 units. Well, one of the speakers said 18 units doesn't scratch the surface. If you're making 150 units of something and you're going to put in the exact minimum number that you're required to, that's a little disingenuous. So, but we should be having these conversations, and we were here locally. So to the suggestions that Commissioner Jenkins was asking us about, I believe that we should, the most impactful way for us to message our residents is through a press conference. When something catastrophic happens, hepatitis A outbreak in Palm City with fatalities, we had press conferences, and it was highly covered. Hurricanes or other issues that are coming our way, we have press conferences. We have really never had a press conference outside of these major, natural disasters. So that would be my first suggestion. The other way to reach a lot of younger people, and Facebook, I think, transcends most generations, but it has to be our social media presence. So we'd have to work with Mr. Donaldson and our social media platform folks, because as the Stuart News ebbs and flows in its in staffing, the story could get lost in the Stuart News if it's in the Stuart News at all. No disrespect to the folks that are working here locally, because they're trying as hard as they can, but they're constrained by a corporation that's not based here. So I would say that our social media is the most direct way to reach residents. But first and foremost, from our perspective, I would recommend that we have a press conference to strongly pronounce that this does not work in Martin County. Because some of the letters that we got where people were asking us, like, what were you thinking? How dare you come up with this idea? This is not our idea. Commissioner Hurd and then Commissioner Smith.
I agree with Commissioner Smith that we send letters in opposition to Senate Bill 102, Senate Bill 1240, House Bill 1197 to our legislative delegation and all others who might be voting, which is everybody. Everybody who's going to be voting. Also, we need to have, while session is occurring, we need to have a legislative update every meeting. We have a public information officer. We have MCTV. We can do every 2 weeks after this meeting, we can have an MCTV update. We send out a newsletter at least every week. We can put this information in the newsletter. In the Stuart News, we can submit a guest column, ask for the ability to produce a guest column every 2 weeks while session while they're in session.
Take out a full-page ad.
So that our public is as informed as we can possibly make them. And we can speak specifically about bills that are pending.
Yeah, because there might be some other surprises coming down the pipe our way.
There will be.
Thank God we have Sarah Powers here to bat them back up to Tallahassee. Okay, thank you. All legitimate suggestions, which basically your suggestion is everything.
Yeah, and be specific about it. Be specific about the bills that are pending.
Commissioner Smith.
So Ed, some years ago, and I don't remember how long, Sarah might remember exactly when, I think it was WRDA, we were working on passing a WRDA like 15 years ago or something like that. And I like your idea about the press conference. What we might want to suggest at FACT next week is a given day that all 67 counties have a press conference.
Go to Tallahassee.
Well, no,
The
well,
tricky
well,
part of
whether-
that is that then if they do it in Indian River and St. Lucie and Palm Beach, then we're not all going to get the coverage.
Well, but you create a
Yeah,
statewide
we could do
event,
that. Hands across.
kind of an event that, would really gain some significant attention.
Well, then it should be like, with all kidding aside, when we did Hands Across the Beach, it should be every county doing it, and you could bring that up at FAC, every county doing it on the same day, but instead of just having it be the governmental body, invite the public to come somewhere. And just, then you can, then if I'm a news director at any one of our local affiliates, then you're showing, here it is in Vero, here it is in Stewart, here it is in Port St. Lucie, here it is in.
But think about, so, how we set up our EOC. We set it up so that we could communicate and people can come plug in and it's all connected, right? If you did that and all 67 said on next Friday, prime time, 4 o'clock news, 5 o'clock news, whatever,
Do both.
all 67 counties are going to hold a press conference at their EOC or whatever, because I think that's a good idea, Ed. I mean, I think the
Emergency.
pandemic stuff, the hurricane stuff, it all makes sense. It would be a significant, I think, message.
We will arrange to have all of those things happen. Mr. Donaldson?
I just wanted to weigh in on the fact that you realize that within the language itself, it had some punitive measures. How we go about advocating against this may also have punitive measures in terms of our request for funding and others, which is fine. I just want to remind you that I think in the current legislative process in Florida, it has been a very strong, the way the Senate and the House is controlled. You're sometimes you're with them or against them. Certainly, our proposal to this point was, if they were, as Commissioner Smith said, if they're going to produce a bill, is there any way we can exempt Martin County? Is certainly one of the issues that we've looked at, is how do we get something in language to allow some parts of the state to continue to experiment in the way that they've determined that they want their growth to proceed. Advocating in a strong support, which is fine. I just want to remind the board that the legislature is and has been and can be punitive on all other things we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I think the message, if you were to do this, is that home rule is one of the underpinnings of the Constitution, of the state of Florida, of local government, and that any attack on home rule, this being one of them, is something that we oppose. And we are, I think there's a willingness of probably everybody, which is how I tried to answer Ed's question earlier when I said that there may be some communities, there may be some cities, some counties that think that some of this is a good idea. Fair enough for them. But that's this one-size-doesn't-fit-all thing, and I think the messaging is, it is not a one-size-fits-all. That's why there are 67 counties and 417 cities, I think. Indiantown being the last one. And so I agree with Don. I think how you message, what you say, the approach you take, you have to think about all aspects of this. But I think if we were to send a collective statewide message, if you were going to do something like that, it would be on preemption, it would be on home rule, it would be on the ability for locals at the smallest form of government to make the best decisions for their residents.
I agree, Mr. Donaldson. I don't think that any of us were talking about, no pitchforks, no torches. But because it's the same, sometimes we're the government entity, and when people come to us with things that they don't like, we'd still like a respectful kind of dialogue. So I think we can do that. And again, what we're saying is how not, and our local representatives, you know, this could have been sprung on them as well. But none of them are the authors of these ideas. So our two representatives and our state senator, and Senator Harold came last week, to her benefit, to her credit, she came to our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee meeting and sort of tried to, you know, educate us, because it was still like hot off the presses on some of it. She took time to come to our late afternoon meeting to discuss it. So I give credit to our representatives, and I understand if we start, I always say, if you poke people in the eye, it's hard to then ask them for a favor, a different favor. But this is probably, as far as I remember, the most detrimental potential legislation that could affect us as a county. So our residents expect us to represent them and come out respectfully swinging, because the worst thing that could happen is that it does, in some iteration, get approved, and then the residents then become educated to what happened with this and look at us like, what did you do? So it should be no mistake that we are unified and ready to go. So do you have enough information from us, Mr. Donaldson, on how to proceed with the messaging points?
We have multiple messages, yes.
By any means necessary. Let's wrap this one up. You want motions?
Do you need us to be clearer? I mean, in terms of,
No, I think we're going to have these, every meeting we'll have discussions on it. We're going to be going to Tallahassee next Tuesday. I think we know that in any opportunity us to weigh in opposition, how we get the message out to the public in terms of our social media and others, we will work with our staff. And so, and bring that back in terms of, before I would suggest an organized press conference, I would want a very specific white paper developed by this board about what it is we're going to say, as opposed to an ad hoc press conference. I think I would like to have a very specific message before we do something like that. So,
Fine, so I would.
at this point in time, we're going to take the information you've gotten back to us. We'll work with our lobbyist on terms of our best way to weigh in an opposition, and if there's any opportunities to exempt Martin County, for instance, or other opportunities to modify the bill, we need to be engaged. And we'll work with our Florida Association of Counties and other governmental entities on strategies on how we can collectively work together to change the direction of the bill.
Thank you. I'd like a little more of a ramped-up version than that. I think my suggestion is a press conference, give you a couple of days, a press conference Friday. I was going to say Thursday, but are you here on Friday? The five of you here on Friday? Sure. Friday press conference, we don't want to just stand up there and like we don't know what we're talking about, but your version's a little tempered for me. I'd like it to be a little more ramped up than that. Commissioner Hetherington.
I was going to say I think the most important thing is to have the residents understand, that this, what you laid out is being discussed right now in Tallahassee, because we don't have to be only 5 or 6, 8 mouthpieces. There's 160,000 of them with this information to the public and all the contacts of all of the decision makers in Tallahassee. That's the most empowered and impactful statement. So I think that's the most important component, is that residents know what is happening so they can speak on their behalf as well.
That's what that press conference would be. Sort of gets the ball rolling. Because remember, there was 2 other inside baseball things that we heard. One is that it's already on the Senate side past 3 committees, pre-committees. And it's also being promoted by the president of the Senate, which I'm pretty sure whoever that is, we know now, but whoever it happens to be at any given point in time, carries a tremendous amount of weight. This is not a little nebulous thing that's being recommended by a representative from a 13,000 population county somewhere in the state. This has a lot of horsepower already, and it's already out of the, on the Senate side, it's out of the barn. So I think a press conference is designed purely to motivate and sort of rev up our citizens to then take it. All of the other suggestions, and especially what Commissioner Smith said, we still have to follow the traditional ways of letting our representatives understand, which is the letters, you know. But some of the other things that we're talking about, you know, many people shockingly do not watch this meeting. Many people shockingly do not go to the county's website. Many people shockingly do not, are not involved in the app. And those are the people that would be most upset by this, and they need to know. The folks that come to our meetings and watch them on TV, we have them already. It's how do we reach the people that are not looking at our traditional Martin County messaging techniques. We have a team of experts just on the other side of this wall that can do that. But the message has to come from the five of us. And if we stand up there united, I think our residents and our local news media will pay attention. Commissioner Smith, you're next.
It may seem obvious, but we have two very talented people here to our left, your right, our left, that can work with, I think, all of our communications people, but I think crafting the message that is
Classy.
that will be understood and will be productive, I think, for our purposes. You know, for the purposes of a press conference, I think they can help form that and put that together and carefully walk us through the right things to say.
Agree. Don, one more crack at it?
Yes, sir. When we address hurricanes and other things, they're very specific. When you're talking about this is purely a legislative and a political message. So that's why I was looking for time to develop something that have a 5-0 vote on what the statements are going to be. If you're going to do a message on Friday based upon collaboration with staff where you guys can't talk to one another and then come to a meeting, I'm just concerned that it may not come off as professionally as you all want it to be.
Leave
And
that
I just
to us.
warn you that that's all we were looking for, and perhaps before the end of the day, after a meeting, we can try to come up with at least your objective on the basic statement and the roles that each of you would like to participate in this Friday's press conference.
I think what I would also ask, Mr. Chair, is that you do it next Friday, not this coming Friday, you do it the following, because FAC
St. Patrick's Day.
will have met by that point. There will be a lot of conversation about it. I'm sure we'll get from that a lot of the same kind of direction. And that's where I think we could coordinate and have time to make sure that what comes out of FAC can also be blended in. Because whatever it is we say and do, you want it to be productive. And I think to Don's point, I mean, it has to be in such a way that we're not just saying something, we're actually saying something to be constructive and productive, and so that our residents understand what's happening. I think Ed, I think your point is that's the most important part, is that we're really educating our community as to what's going on, but also hopefully coming up with the right crafted message that's supportable by a much broader statewide audience.
I hear you. I hear both of you. One, legislative session is happening now. It's already happening. So you'll be 2 weeks into it by the time you have the press conference. Two, remember, we're not having a live media event. We're having the most, if we're fortunate, you're going to get 90 seconds or 120 seconds from TV. Our staff, who are very smart and educated, we could ask John Mayle to put it together. We could go outside later today and have a legitimate, appropriate, articulate press conference. I personally don't want to wait 2 weeks. It's a serious issue. And I think our staff, I'm not trying to cut them off at the knees. We're talking about coming up with some talking points. If anything, you make a poster that says, these are the things that we have to worry about. Commissioner Hurd listed a couple of them. You did also, Commissioner Smith. What's at stake? Not the 4-story height limit. We know that's not at stake. Losing 75% of our tax value or 100%, for 36 years. bullet point number one. The ability for Martin County to give up its ability to environmentally control wetlands, all these other issues. You just list those, and they're on poster boards behind us. And, a couple of us speak like we would do. We don't all run to the microphone. I know Commissioner Jenkins loves a microphone. He loves the camera. But that being said, I mean, as the chair, I'll forfeit my opportunity for someone else to speak. But I'm pretty sure that politically, collectively, we could figure out how to do this. By Friday, it's right before the weekend, you can get people talking. It's a watered-down version if you wait 2 weeks. We've lost our motivation. And we're not saying something, if FACT comes up with some fantastic verbiage, this is not a one-message issue. It's going to be an important thing that we're going to have to talk about for a long time. I think we need to keep a sense of urgency and how important this is. It's potentially catastrophic. Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I agree, especially since this is Senator Pasadomo's bill, and it's already gone through all the committees. So it's going to go through fast without a lot of revisions, is what I'm afraid of. So I completely agree with you. Let's not
Say that again.
stall.
It just sounds so
not-
wonderful.
Let's not stall.
Love the sound of that.
Let's not stall this. Let's do the press conference as soon as possible. And I agree with you. I think that we could come up with a white paper by the end of the day. I'm not suggesting that we should. I'm suggesting that Friday afternoon is probably a good time to do it. But Mr. Mail can create a white paper for us. We because of sunshine, we can't discuss this again. You can send it to us. We can submit comments back to you, and you can refine it so that we have a unified message on Friday. And we have one speaker. I think we should all be there, but I don't think, you're the chair. We'll let you be speak for, we're going to time you.
The news station is going to time you.
Right.
He is also as shy on the microphone as Harold is, so.
I'm a nervous speaker. I think.
Sarah, welcome.
Yeah, Ms.
Welcome.
Powers, is that a yawn or are you? We're done, but you come forward, please. Ms. Powers, I need that white paper on my desk after lunch. Please state your name for the record.
Gail Goldie, Martin County resident. I'd like to commend you all for really, really giving this a lot of thought. Excuse me. But I would like to also suggest that possibly, I don't know how you have your communications department set up, but I would recommend that possibly make a YouTube video that could be on the Martin County website, and then people could send it. They can share it, and the video would be a wonderful, wonderful thing, I think, for people to see.
You're very hip. You're like a social media influencer. I've seen you on TikTok.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so, yes, ma'am. The wheels have come off the agenda item.
Another quick suggestion. We have a lot of celebrities in Martin County.
They already asked me to speak, and I will.
Can we tap one, Tiger Woods or Greg Norman or something, and ask them to raise their hand and say, please don't do this?
We can try. Don's got a lot of connections. Don's had it. He just wants to break for lunch so bad. All right, let's do this. I think we've talked this as much as we need to. I believe whether staff likes it or not, they have their marching orders. And we will now take our lunch break until 1:30.
Yeah.
And we shall return for the rest of the agenda item at 1:30.